We're doing the story that Tolkien wrote. This is in Appendix A of the Kings of the Mark. Between Errol and Theoden, most is said of Helm Hammerhand. There was at that time a man named Freka. Helm mistrusted him, but called him to his councils, and he came when it pleased him. What a French shower this guy sounds like. No wonder Helm didn't like him. To one of these councils, Freka rode with many men, and he asked the hand of Helm's daughter for his son Wolf. Hey, that must be Hera, right? Wrong, it is not. Could be somebody or anybody because she is not named, and that's all we hear of her. But Helm said, you have grown big since you were last here. But it is mostly fat, I guess. And men laughed at that, for Freka was wide in the belt. Then Freka fell in a rage and reviled the king and said this at the last. Old kings that refuse a proffered staff may fall on their knees. Ooh, trash talking. Helm answered, the marriage of your son is a trifle. Let Helm and Freka deal with it later. Meanwhile, the king and his council have matters of moment to consider. So basically, STFU, we got bigger things. We know he's going to be dealing with it. When the council was over, Helm stood up and laid his great hand on Freka's shoulder, saying, the king does not permit brawls in his house, but men are freer outside. The equivalent of you're in the saloon. It's like, take it outside, boys. And he forced Freka to walk before him out from Edoras into the field. So it's like, yeah, we're going to have a discussion here. Now, Dunlading, said the king, you have only Helm to deal with, alone and unarmed. But you have said much already, and it is my turn to speak. Freka, your folly has grown with your belly. Dang. Hey, he's fat-shaming. How dare he? That's not nice. You talk of a staff? If Helm dislikes a crooked staff that is thrust on him, he breaks it. So, and with that, I shouldn't be laughing. And with that, he smote Freka such a blow with his fist that he fell back stunned and died soon after. That is awesome. Helm then proclaimed Freka's son and near kin the king's enemies, and they fled. He's a big dude. I can just see him just punching him out and killing him. But that's the way it's done. You don't talk to the king like that, or I guess ask for the daughter's hand in marriage. That was really bad, apparently. He took that as a grave insult. Be careful, people. 4 years later, great troubles came to Rohan, and no help could be sent from Gondor. Every time I read that, I laugh. I think of the meme. Where was Gondor? Well, Gondor couldn't send help. Gondor is not available. It never seems to be. For 3 fleets of the Corsairs attacked it. Yeah, hey, we got some old enemies. At the same time, Rohan was again invaded from the east, and the Dunladings seeing their chance to come over the Isen and down from Isengard. It was soon known that Wolf was their leader. The Rohirrim were defeated and their land was overrun, and those who were not slain or enslaved fled to the dales of the mountains. Helm was driven back with great loss from the crossings of Isen and took refuge in the Hornburg and the ravine behind, which was after known as Helm's Deep. No mention of Hera coming and, leading them and saving them and distracting them and all this stuff. Yeah, just kind of a big old battle and things and showing that we don't need to have this non-character character doing what she was described as doing. So here we are. Yay, we're at Helm's Deep. There he was besieged. Wolf took Edoras and called himself king. So Wolf, you suck. There, Haleth, Helm's son, fell, last of all, defending the doors. Oh, he was trying to hold the door and died. So, very brave man, very brave indeed. R.I.P. Soon after, the long winter began, and Rohan lay under snow for nearly 5 months. It says here from November to March, 2758 to 9. Oh my gosh. That reminds me of Little House on the Prairie with the long winter. Yeah, you like die and starve and freeze to death. Y'all catch pneumonia, all sorts of things. This is where Helm just is such a badass. I love him. Let's see what Helm was up to. Both the Rohirrim and their foes suffered grievously in the cold and in the dearth that lasted longer. In Helm's Deep, there was a great hunger after Yule. Speaking of Yule, yay! You see, they celebrated things like Yule and all of that. In Helm's Deep, there was a great hunger after Yule, and being in despair against the king's counsels, Hama, his younger son, led men out on a sortie and foray, but they were lost in the snow. Man, he lost another son. Helm grew fierce and gaunt for famine and grief, and the dread of him alone was worth many men in the defense of the burg. Nice. Yeah. We got ourselves a bereaved man that's big and with a nickname, Hammerhand. So what would he do in his grief and his famine and being very cold? He would go out by himself, clad in white, and stalk like a snow troll into the camps of his enemies and slay many men with his hands. I love it. I love it so much. This guy's a beast. The Dunlending said that if he could find no food, he ate men. So we've got cannibal. We've got Helm the cannibal. That might have been a myth, though, but imagine having that kind of a legend around you. This guy is so fierce, he's going to come out and feed on you. That tale lasted long in Dunland. Helm had a great horn, and soon it was marked that before he sallied forth, he would blow a blast upon it that echoed in the deep. And then so great a fear fell on his enemies that instead of gathering to take him or kill him, they fled down the combe. I would have. Oh, heck yes. I'm not messing around with this. One night, men heard the horn blowing, but Helm did not return. In the morning, there came a sun gleam, the first for long days, and they saw a white figure standing still on the dike, alone. For none of the Dunlendings dared come near. There stood Helm, dead as stone, but his knees were unbent. Boom. See how the way Tolkien tells his story is just so much cooler? Oh my gosh. Dang. So he's dead. Yet men said that the horn was still heard at times in the deep, and the wraith of Helm would walk among the foes of Rohan and kill men with fear. This dude is killing people from the grave just by scaring them to death. That's what I call a badass. By the way, where's the mention of Olwyn or whatever, the aunt? Oh, no other chick is in this story. Soon after, the winter broke. Then Freyleth, son of Hild, Helm's sister, came down out of Dunhera. Wait a second. There was an aunt. Her name was Hild, to which many had fled. And with a small company of desperate men, he surprised Wulf and slew him and regained Edoras. There were great floods after the snow, and the Vale of Entwash became a vast fen. The eastern invaders perished or withdrew, and there came help at last from Gondor. Finally, where was Gondor? Gondor finally came. By the roads both east and west of the mountains. Before the year 2759 was ended, the Dunlendings were driven out, yay, even from Isengard, and then Freyleth became king, yay! Helm was brought from the Hornburg and laid in the 9th mound. Ever after, the white word I'm not going to pronounce grew there most thickly, so that the mound seemed to be snow-clad. Dang it! I could just sit and read this all day. When Freyleth died, a new line of mounds was begun. The Rohirrim were grievously reduced by war and death and loss of cattle and horses, and it was well that no danger threatened them again for many years. It was at the crowning of Freyalif that Saruman appeared. Hey, Saruman! Saruman appeared, bringing gifts and speaking great praise of the valor of the Rohirrim. All thought him a welcome guest. Soon after, he took up his abode in Isengard. For this, Beren, steward of Gondor, gave him leave, for Gondor still claimed Isengard as a fortress of its realm and not a part of Rohan. Beren also gave into Saruman's keeping the keys of Orthanc. That tower no enemy has been able to harm or to enter. So you see, things are being set up. In this way, Saruman began to behave as a lord of men, for at first he held Isengard as a lieutenant of the steward and warden of the tower. But Freyalif was as glad as Beren to have this so, and to know that Isengard was in the hands of a strong friend, a friend he long seemed, and many in the beginning he was one in truth. Though afterwards there was little doubt in men's minds that Saruman went to Isengard in hope to find the stone still there, and with the purpose of building up a power of his own. And we all know how that goes. Certainly, after the last White Council, 2953, his designs toward Rohan, though he hid them, were evil. He then took Isengard for his own and began to make it a place of guarded strength and fear, as though to rival the Barad-dûr. His friends and servants he drew then from all who hated Gondor and Rohan, whether men or other creatures more evil. And there it is. There it is. That is a story that Tolkien wrote.